Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Divulgence. I'm very excited to have William Ramsey back in the house. William, how are you, my friend?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
No, thanks for your time. I'm always a pleasure to have you, my friend. So, you are obviously an author of a lot of interesting books. Your most recent one is, of course, the Smiley Face Killers, which goes with your film that you also made on the Smiley Face Killers. So, yeah, it's something I've always wanted to talk to you about. So, before we get into the Smiley Face Killers and whatnot, well, no, I guess we'll just jump right into it. I guess maybe first a good thing to differentiate is that because I know recently, I think there's a Prime series or a movie with Dennis Quaid recently out about the Happy Face Killer, which is obviously completely different from the Smiley Face Killers, plural. So yeah, can you give us a little rundown on who the what the Smiley Face Killers are, and your process of making the movie and the book?
Yeah, the Happy Face Killer is Keith Jesperson, who was a trucker who killed women. But the Smiley Face Killers got its name from two guys. One is Kevin Gannon, who's just around. He was just in a being discussing the Smiley Face killings with a journalist by the name of Brian Entin, Entin. You can check that out on YouTube. And the other one is Gilbertson, who's kind of just fell off the radar. He's not involved in this. A lot of journalists come and go in this, but it got its name from them. The reason it's got its name is because they noticed in two different locales. One was, I believe, in Wisconsin, and the other is in New York. They noticed young men starting to turn up in bodies of water in the late 90s. They started studying them independently, and then they started taking pictures. They started looking into things, and they started noticing that some of these deaths, which they thought were suspicious, that they weren't actual suicides or accidental drownings. They thought there were more to the story, but they saw this spray painted picture of a smiley face near some of these. So it got this kind of phenomenon of a young man disappearing at night, always at night, later to be found missing for oftentimes days, weeks, sometimes almost a month, later to be found in a body of water, got the name the Smiley Face Killers. And that's it. And it's kind of started. There were like earlier cases. There's been like, the mafia has dumped people in water. So it's gone back. But these specific cases kind of go all the way back to a guy by the name of Patrick McNeil. He was a Fordham University student, and he fit all the profile of this smiley face killing type person. He was a young guy. He was at a bar. He started acting strange. He left to go back to his university. Somebody was following him. Somebody was seen following him. And then he disappeared to be later found downriver in a water treatment facility. And that's kind of year zero, like late 90s, 1997, I believe. And then it's just kind of compounded and morphed in different locations and different cities for over the last 25, 30-year period. And it's only grown. I've studied probably 500 cases internationally. I don't know if
Oh,
you know this,
wow.
but I've done another movie. So I did the first movie is 2017, and then I did a follow-up in 2020 called Smiley Face Killers, The Global Slaughter Continues. I don't think I have a disc for that.
Okay, I think I watched that on your website though during COVID, I believe. So yes, I
Yeah,
recall.
it's on my Patreon. People can go to my Patreon and check all that stuff out for free. If you just pay $5 a month, you can get a lot of free material too. A lot of stuff without ads. So
Nice.
but yeah, so I've done two documentaries. The first one documentary is super long, like it's way too long, 3.5 hours. And then I just finished my book last year on the second edition. That's also way too long. It's like 400 pages of material. But it really shows kind of the history, the unfolding, the unraveling, the peeling of the onion of like this phenomenon as it becomes more understood, as more cases happen, and these cases are studied by multiple different people. And some of these people they weren't connected. And now it's kind of grown, like I said, and like there were huge outbreaks of these phenomenon, these types of cases in Chicago. And then places that they never happened before, like Austin, Texas. Their lake just started as Austin kind of got on the map as a cultural center of comedy and people fleeing California. These cases grew up around that, and they call it the Rainy Street Kill Ripper. Rainy Street is kind of their most famous drinking street, and also Boston. Some of these other places, it's happened worldwide. Happens in London, happens in Bath and Manchester. Manchester, they call him the Pusher. So it's got all these different names. This phenomenon gets different names at different places, but it's all the same phenomenon as young men going out at night, disappearing, and to be found in places that are strange or previously searched, or oftentimes in important cases, there's immense amounts of resources deployed to find these people, and then this person will show up in a place already searched. And some of these are very sophisticated searches. They're not like amateurs. They get divers who know search and rescue techniques and are trained and know how to do underwater searches. And so things are missing. And oftentimes these guys act suspicious. They go through a personality change. Their phones are found where, they decide to drown themselves supposedly while putting their phone down, or their phone is smashed, or the phone goes a different direction from where they're supposed to be going. And there's so many cases like this. It's just, and I literally couldn't keep up. Like, there's just been so many cases and so many things, but I tried to get as many cases as I could inside this 400-page book that I published in 2024.
I had an author, Janet Marin, on a couple weeks ago, and let's see here. She told me about a case. I think it's from 2003, 2004, but I think maybe there's movement on it. I think it's Minneapolis or somewhere in Minnesota around Halloween. College boy, blonde hair, blue eyes. He was at a bar. I guess he got thrown out because maybe he was getting rowdy, maybe he was drunk, maybe he was drugged. No shoes, no coat, no wallet, no phone. He was found 2 weeks later after going missing in a river. Yeah.
What was his name?
I didn't get the name. Unfortunately.
There's a lot that happens in Minneapolis. There's some. Chris
Really?
Jenkins is, yeah.
Okay.
Chris Jenkins is one of the bigger cases that I studied. I set aside a whole chapter for him. But there's been other ones that have been happened in there. Some of the names don't come to mind right off the top of my head, but they all fit that same profile. So
I was going to ask, what areas is there a concentration of these in some areas? I mean, you just said Minnesota, yes. Are there other areas where there seems to be a concentration of these?
Absolutely. Like some of the early cases, like I think it was La Crosse was like a hot spot for a minute. New York, Boston, definitely Austin, Texas, now Chicago, Portland had a lot of these types of murders. So they happen. There's some in San Francisco. Anywhere where there's a body of water, certainly in Bath and Manchester, and just kind of through the UK. But yeah, those urban areas are hotspots. There's no question about it. But they happen in some smaller areas. Like there is places in the Midwest. There's been one in Iowa, Ohio, Indiana, wherever. College towns too seem to be a thing.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I feel like that makes total sense. Question from the audience here. We have Stefan. Is this about the New England situation? Do you know what they're referring to?
I don't know, but they're
Boston.
Yeah, I mean, you can bring up this guy right here. I think he was a New England case. They just found him this morning. This is just another one. Owen Kenny. He was missing for a week. The same thing, missing all week, exhaustive searches, a lot of press stuff. And then all of a sudden, he shows up in the river. They call it suicide or something like that. So
Right.
it's hard to believe. But there's just so many. I mean, it's just like I can't even keep up. I would recommend, if you really want to follow people, there's a couple guys on X And one was the researcher. I can't believe he's been researching the Smiley Face Killings for this long, but his name is Jim Smith,
Yep.
and it's his X handle is at Smiley Face Cult. And then a newer guy who's kind of come in is Staged Drownings. It's at Staged Drownings. So you can check both of them out. They really are, you
Great.
know,
Thank you.
greater researchers. You can also invite them on your show. I know they do interviews, but like, it's really hard to keep up with all the cases. It's really not funny, but there's just so many cases. It's crazy.
So let's see, where do I want to go with this? There's so many questions. What is the general, if you know, what's the general perception or outlook when it comes to law enforcement and the media? I mean,
It's a great question.
Yeah, so let's start with that, William.
Here's the thing is that the FBI's discounted this back in, I think, 2010 as being a viable thing. They looked into it. I have that section in my book where they actually kind of like, they don't, you know, they looked into something in 2008, and there's even been like congressmen saying, hey, look into this. But they said I wouldn't trust the FBI at all based upon their track record. They're terrible law enforcement people in general. It's almost
They
like
don't
a
have a
clown
good
show.
batting record at all.
They don't. They have a terrible one. To date, we have not developed any evidence to support links between these tragic deaths or any evidence substantiating the theory that these deaths are the work of a serial killer or killers. So they discounted, that's 2008. They discounted a lot of these police chalk up these deaths to accidental drownings or suicides, which is people generally don't drown themselves suicide. I think it does happen, but it's not that unusual. The other thing that makes these water deaths unique is that they don't happen during like leisure hours. Like you and I go to the lake, we're going to go fishing.
Right. Yeah,
we're going to go swimming. This is always at night. There isn't even one case that I covered that's during the day. And they're always in the suspect areas. So like, in all of the cases that they have in common, Jordan, is that nobody sees them go in the water. Like that, there's not even one witness to say, once that witness is established, it can't be put into the pool of accidental drownings because somebody sees it. Like, okay, I saw Bob. He had 16 drinks. He was a mess. And then he got this stupid idea to go, you know, swimming in front of Niagara Falls. So he's obviously an accidental or intentional death or something. But these are people like, hey, Bob, I'm going to go out and check my phone. And then they disappear and they're gone for 2 weeks. And then they're found in water. Like nobody sees these people go into water. They see them acting suspiciously. They go through personality changes. They only have one drink and start acting crazy.
Right.
They act out of normal. I mean, one case that comes to mind in Austin is a guy, very athletic, young guy, healthy. His name was Martinez, and he wasn't a drinker. So, like, if he went to a bar, he was that guy who didn't try to like two-fist alcohol. He was the one guy who had one drink just to show he was drinking, you know, but not like really interested in putting on a buzz or something like that. And he had one drink and started acting really strange. His brother goes, "That he's acting really whacked." And then you find out like all these major cities, Nashville, LA, New York, Chicago, Austin, there's just huge drugging problems at these bars. So people are either the bartenders or the waitresses are drugging people either for kicks or because they're stealing their money or charging their credit cards or something like that. So it's really I mean, it's this. I think that the Smiley Face Killings has to be seen alongside the epidemic of drugs and drugging that's going on at late night establishments.
And I mean, excuse me, if this is, like a serial killing conspiracy of some sort, then I feel like they would definitely be taking advantage of that aspect of things, of just like the case we spoke of where the guy got kicked out of the bar, or like you're talking about how their personality changes, they're likely getting drugged, and it's just something that happens, unfortunately. But it's also seems to be one of the many connections that these cases seem to have, either a small handful or a large handful of similarities and connections. So it's interesting that law enforcement is, putting out the notion that, we don't see any connections to even think that, it might be a serial killer or killers.
I had one host say it was like the Jaws in Amityville, where if they said there was a serial killer, it would spook the public. So I think
Okay.
this is happening in the larger context of corruption in the U.S., where it's just super corrupt, and they're just covering it up for whatever reason. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to look incompetent. It's a lot easier for these. I mean, it's kind of like the perfect crime, because it's a lot easier for the cops to just say, hey, there's an accidental drowning. There's no murder investigation. We don't have to put resources. Poor guy went out and drowned. Case closed. Move on. And some of these guys, they have injuries, like, or they have things missing, or things are strange, or air in their lungs. There was a huge case last year about Riley Strain in Nashville, huge drugging problem, missing for 2 weeks, international news, all kinds of FBI analysts and true crime people. Where's Riley? He wandered off. A good-looking guy, fits the profile, a young, good-looking guy, and he's found 2 weeks without his phone. Like, why did he throw his phone before he tried to drown himself? And his pants are missing, and there's air in his lungs, which is not consistent with drowning. They call it a dry drowning or something like that, but it's not that common.
Right.
So why isn't he actually officially drowned? And why is he found in previously searched areas? They're searching for Riley Strain in that river, which is not challenging. I'm old and I could probably swim across it without much of a challenge. Why is this happening to him? And then the cop literally finds his body and makes a judgment on the spot, and they don't even look into it, like nothing strange. So there's no inquiry, inquest. Why do we miss this? How do we lose this? So it's a very strange situation. Like, there's high strangeness. Like, these people disappear off of CCTV, like somebody's watching them, like why isn't the CCTV catching a lot of the stuff? So it's almost like there's a predator or predators. And people said, do you think it's one serial killer? Of course not. Do I think it's kind of a network?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even Gannon just the other day, I mean, he was on this guy, Brian Enton's show. He's like, this Smiley Face Killers network. He believes there's a connected network. And I think it's accurate. Like, so
let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, some people are interested, they start modeling agencies because they like young girls, or they're pedophiles. So they go join the Boy Scouts, or get access to kids. And I think these are people who like young men. So they are in a group of people who that's their key victim group, whereas, or like we talked about Jesperson, he seemed to want to kill women. So this is just another thing where this is happening. And I think I had a whole section in my new book called basically like the similarities between the criminal cases. So I did it SFK offender typology. Yeah, there it is. And so all these there's other serial killers who've targeted young men. And I think that they're instructive because they kind of go through the same thing. Where do they go? They go to bars. They're on gay apps, or things like that. So they're in their own community and doing stuff and traveling around. They're almost like Jeffrey Dahmer too, actually.
Dude, you just read my mind. You literally just read my mind. I didn't want to interrupt, but it's just like Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, he's taken advantage. I mean, he was obviously interested in the gay, gay.
He was a known member of the gay lifestyle. Like, he was a known member of the gay community, and he was also a drugger. He was also
he was a drugger. Exactly.
And he got kicked out, I think, of one bathhouse because of drugging, like repeated drugging.
Yeah, so, at least one. Yeah, that's correct.
And there's other cases like that. There's a guy, Stephen Port, outside of London, who killed people. He was a serial killer. He would use GHB and drug people. So like that's how you could find people perpetrating this crime, is like they're into using drugs to get victims. And there was like the most successful rapist of all time in the UK. His name was Reinhard Sinaga, a dude from Indonesia. You would not even, if you walked by him and like on a street, you wouldn't even get a threatening vibe. He's the least threatening person imaginable. Kind of
wow,
like an Asian dude,
yeah.
5'9", openly gay, went to gay churches, these kind of gay churches. Yeah, Reinhard Sinaga. Does that guy look threatening to you?
Nope.
That's the most successful rapist in the UK history. And he would go out. What he would do is like sleep until 2 a.m. and then go to the bars and look for victims, bring them back, drug them, and rape them and film them. The reason they know he was a mega rapist is because he took videos of it and they had it all. So was this guy? What if he was drugging people and he overdrugged somebody, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, and then he had to dump the body. Victims 136 to 206.
Plus 206
Bro,
plus. That's
in
a
the
big
span of 2 years. Like
yeah, look at this. Holy man, Wakefield. Oh my god.
Jordan. But this is just the years that they had him
know.
Right.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So that's like, but then the other thing that's really interesting about this case, which they'll probably mention even on the Wikipedia, is that they covered it up. They didn't even have any publication or any publicity. They didn't notify the media. They just said we convicted a guy. It was so weird. There was some kind of weird like thing from the top where they never publicized the case. They went after people, but it's such an important case. Why isn't it in the media? It never hit the media until after they convicted him. Isn't that crazy? I think it might even be. Yeah.
That is odd.
He has a whole life order or something like. He had 150, 200, and look at all the victims of Smiley Face Killers. There's 500 victims. So like, people are out there. Like some of these killers are could be very prolific killers. When I was first researching, like I keyed into the male interest, like somebody's interested in males, right? Because they're males. And I looked into gay serial killers. I've done shows on Dahmer, but there's some other ones that people don't know about who preyed upon other men in gay bars. And one was a guy named Aller, who was, I think, in the Midwest, and he would move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction to kill people, and that's why he confused the cops. And there was another guy. Look up Randy Kraft for me, okay. Kraft, and he had 100 victims. Like he killed 100 people. But think about the people that he might have raped or done something who just never got busted for it.
That's right.
There's another guy, not looking too threatening.
Yeah.
But gay and one of the most prolific murderers ever. And we go around like looking for random dudes.
Then how about Dennis Nilsen as well?
Nilsen, look up.
Who had so many similarities to Dahmer. It's ridiculous. I would love to do a show on just the similarities between those two.
I've done a show on gay serial killers because they are a subset. There was another guy in the Midwest, Olmeyer or Hansmeyer or something like that. But it was close to Oler. Let me see if I can. He was like released to kill again, is what he was. But all these guys, even Kraft and stuff like that, they Oler, they thought that they weren't looking alone. They weren't working alone. Jera. Let me see. The book that I read is Freed to Kill, The True Story of Serial Murderer Larry Eyler. Eyler. Definitely worth your time.
Larry Eyler. Okay.
Yeah, so he was just one. And Koberger, I can't remember the guy's name. He was from the the Midwest. He was a serial killer who kept snuff films and stuff like that. But anyway, so I think that the kind of gay serial killer thing is instructive. But that section's SFK offender typology, I think, is worth people's read.
It's let's keep talking about like the network concept of this. Like, it's just crazy to think that, but very possible, that, you know, somehow maybe two guys met or a few guys met, and then it just turned into what it is now through years of patience and recruitment, and, you know,
and networking and people with a similar interest. There was a case in Melbourne, and it's in my offender typology section, a case in Melbourne, which is, I think, the 4th biggest city in Australia, and it's called The Family. It got the nickname The Family because it was a group. There was one kind of central character, but it fit kind of like the profile of what an offender would do. There was a group of guys, they were gay, and they would go out looking for random people, and they would drug them and keep them. And then when they were done, like, they would keep them for a while and do horrible things. And then they were done, they would dump the bodies. And they got the family, and it was just like they were into other things. They were into picking up, you know, runaways and vulnerable people and just doing, you know, really, they were gay. So they would do these things, you know, do things like that. And it just felt like this was the same thing, the drugging and the driving around and stuff like that. And I think just to add, one of the things is why the law enforcement, you mentioned the law enforcement earlier. I think one of the reasons the law enforcement don't kind of key into this is because it's part of kind of the gay either lifestyle or underground or whatever. And so some of these other cops who aren't gay, they don't understand the way these guys think and operate. So, because they're part of that network, so they just don't know, you know, the kind of gay life, cruising lifestyle, and the kind of gay, you know, what they do.
Yeah, that's a perfect situation. Like, if you've seen the movie Cruising, 1980 with Al Pacino, great movie, and it's just like that, right? They're looking for a killer who's in the scene, and yeah, they
very graphic. A lot of gay people, do not want that movie to be made.
It does a great job of telling that story. I think it's a great movie, and they send him in there, and he learns, and he gets all caught up in it, and it kind of changes him a little bit, and it's interesting.
That movie is almost kind of like suppressed. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's too controversial,
right?
And it was the guy who did The Exorcist, who was the director. I can't remember his name right now, but he directed The Exorcist, and they had a lot of problems. The gay community didn't kind of want that exposed.
William Friedkin.
Friedkin.
Sorry.
So, like, I mean, and that's kind of, and that's like shows a side of the gay community that isn't, it's not all pastels and antiquing. It's like leather bars and dudes like
fisting, like there's a fisting scene.
It's really graphic shit. But there is like a case that comes to mind. There was a guy who was last seen in front of like a BDSM gay club. That club was like cruising, and he was in Washington, D.C., and he was never seen again, and then found in the river. And his brother thinks like, oh, this guy got abducted, and I don't even know what happened to him. Arvind Sharma, 22, fits all the bill. Like this guy, Arvind Sharma, he was in a bachelor party or something like that, or I can't remember. Let's see. Arvind Sharma, 22, disappeared 2005, Nepalese American, about to graduate with honors from University of American. He went to a club in South DC, which Club Lime shared a building with a bondage dominant sadomasochism club. He was last seen that night. He was separated. Arvind Sharma's brother Ashish said either someone slipped something into his drink and took him out the front door, or something happened at the club. He walked in on it and saw something he wasn't supposed to. there was some foul play involved. 9 days after he disappeared, the body of Arvin Sharma was found upstream from where he was last seen.
Hmm.
They all fit the same bill.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Like, for sure, you got that right.
And I mean, it just goes on and on. That's kind of like the whole theme of the book is like it's the same pattern over and over. So there's I think it's, if you talk about a network, there's an underground culture of this heavy duty stuff. I'm not saying these people are all murderers or anything, but I think I researched for either the first or the second book, this documentary called Kink, which is like a BDSM thing, but in the technological thing. So there's a place in San Francisco where they took over this old like foundry or something like that. And they would do heavy duty porn and stream it in, and people would pay to watch it. Right. So these were all supposedly voluntary. I'm assuming voluntary, but like people would pay to watch it. So that's how they raised millions of dollars. So people all over the world would watch like literal fake drownings and stuff, like torture drownings and torture. And it raised tens of millions of dollars. So the interest in this kind of stuff is out there. People have heard the notion of a red room, snuff flicks, and things like that. Like, it gets really, really dark. And something like that may be happening with some of these cases.
Yeah, absolutely, very possible. I mean, the possibilities are, pretty wild in this case. It's just crazy that, I mean, do you know much about some of these? I mean, are pretty much all these cases unsolved? Is that
all of these cases are not seen as murders? They are accidental.
William, damn it!
So they're never going to look into it.
Oh, god damn it, man! That's okay. All right.
So that's the whole thing. These aren't murders to them. To me, these are all suspicious drownings. I've taken cases off of my list, like in certain circumstances where the family says no way, or this wasn't suspicious at all. But like all these other ones stay on there. A lot of the giveaway is the family. The family will come in and say, this is way outside of the common behavior of my loved one. They just would not do that. They weren't heavy drinkers. They don't use hard drugs.
Right.
They're just not this type of person. They're totally responsible. And all of a sudden they start acting crazy and disappear and wander off and, start slurring their words, and it just doesn't add up. And I mean, some of these cases are so obviously foul play, like people disappearing for 40 days. They're found in water and they're perfectly good shape. I talked about Riley Strain earlier, and he was found in pretty good shape. He should have been, when people pass away, their bodies decay.
Right.
So he should have been in a state of decay. And according to my sources, he wasn't. They never mentioned that. So where is he for this period of time?
Thank you.
Things happen. Usually, like, there's stats. Like, if somebody falls in water, they're found within a mile of where, like 80% of the time, they're found within a mile of where they fell in the water. He wasn't. Yeah. Like, these are really simple. They do so many statistics and so much research into forensics that they have drowning facts and things that happen to bodies and what temperatures, and studies have already been done. Like, for the criminal forensics and scientific forensics on all this stuff is all very well established over time. Like, it's all science. So why are these guys things happening to them outside the realm of science?
So that goes into what you were also talking about how people, it's kind of like the movie. Have you seen the movie Chained?
No, I don't know that.
With Vincent D'Onofrio.
No, what's it about?
Essentially, he's a taxi driver and a serial killer, and he basically captures. The story is he captures a mom and her son, he kills the mom because that's what he does. He picks people up and he kills them, but he keeps the son alive and like trains him to do what he does. And it's about, he comes home every few nights with a girl. There's a whole process. They keep them alive for so long. There's usually sometimes drugging or sexual stuff involved.
Wow.
And then yeah, they kill them off and bury him under the house. So yeah, it just goes into what you're saying. If they're being found, so much time has passed, but they're not looking so bad in terms of decomposition and whatnot, then I mean, these people must be being captured, right? And something's going on with them, and then they're being killed and dumped at a later date in water, usually.
It's weird. I studied a guy. He was from the area of where a lot of these cases happened. His name was Edward Lamphere, and he literally would abduct boys. So externally, he was heterosexual. I think he was married, but he liked men. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, he had, he was bisexual, but he would get people and chain them up. And one guy got out. He escaped. And so how many other victims did he have? Like, we don't know. Like, sometimes these guys only get busted for one victim, but they've been on a thing. Another good example of somebody I've studied is Rex Heuermann, who didn't get busted until he was 56. And they say serial killers start killing in their teens or 20s. So, like, how many people did Rex Heuermann get away with? That was his that's what he did for kicks. Like, he liked the whole thinking process of it too. Gacy, you mentioned Gacy, Jordan. Like, these guys have very similar things. Gacy's last 4 victims were all thrown in a lake south of Chicago. They were all thrown in a river. And same thing with the Atlanta child killings. They're all thrown in water.
Oh, that's a wild one. The Atlanta child killings.
So the average person isn't going to, thank God, the average person isn't going to think like that. But the serial killers like learn from each other, and they kind of do similar things. And so I think there's just there's probably active cells of these guys who do this, and they don't care. They're either nihilists, Satanists, something, and this is their drive, is to, Gacy, I don't know why he killed all of his victims, but like, he used to we know Gacy was traveling around too, which is really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he would go to he was in Chicago, but he would go to some beach place or some lake in Kentucky, things like that. Like, there's stories of him, and then there's stories of people being found in these things. So there were mysterious drownings actually studied by people who thought they tried to link them to Gacy. So we don't know how many people Gacy actually killed.
Yeah, again, we don't know.
Yeah, it's really dark. It's very dark, and this stuff is still happening. The recent cases just go on and on. You just cannot believe how many cases there are.
So now there seems to be, over the past few years, you have a couple movies, you have your book, and now there's at least 2. I don't know if they're. I think one's a movie called Smiley Face Killers, and then there's, I think, a documentary on Oxygen. Smiley Face Killers: The Hunt for Justice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good. There was 6-part. Yeah, it was a 6-part series. It featured Gannon Gilbertson.
Okay.
It was produced by a reputable, production company, but I think that they didn't show the kind of depth of the phenomenon. That would be my kind of critique. But I thought it was good. It's worth watching. I covered a lot of those cases. Those are some of the original cases. I think they covered the guy McNeil that I mentioned earlier. So, and one of the interesting things is sometimes the police tell the people what happened, like, oh, it's an accidental drowning, but then the autopsy, which isn't published, sometimes the families get those and tell a whole different story. Like, some of these guys are tortured. McNeil's a perfect example. His parents were told that he had drowned. Then they got the autopsy report, right? And the autopsy report said that he had burns on his upper body and got hit in the head with a ball peen hammer. Same thing, same thing happened with Dakota James, who was in Pittsburgh, and he was missing 40 days. His body was in good shape when it was found. And they're like, "Oh, it's a terrible drowning." Then the family gets the autopsy, and he has rope marks around his neck, and he has kind of like, I guess when you're being strangled, a lot of times fingernails will break and stuff because you're trying to get the rope off your neck.
Right.
And he had those kind of contusions on his fingers, Dakota James did. So a lot of these autopsies tell a different story.
Do you think this, with your stuff and these movies and stuff coming out, like, do you think that's going to help, like, kind of,
well, at least to be knowledgeable? Yeah, I think so.
Draw
I think the
attention to it, right? At least it'll draw some attention.
Yeah, the one by Bret Easton Ellis, Smiley Face, is kind of a joke. His logo is very similar to mine for my second movie, which pretty questionable. But he makes it look like a serial killer.
That's the movie, right? Like the dramatization one. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think this is a culture, and this is like some dark, heavy duty underground stuff, like Gimp Mask stuff, and that's why kind of on the first film you see that weird kind of picture that nobody knows what it is, but it's a picture of a guy kind of being drowned with a Gimp mask on. And I think that's really something like that is happening. That's it. Yeah. That's taken from a video that was directed by a guy named Peter Christopherson, a known member of the Illuminates of Thanateros. Thanateros is sex and death. And he made this film called Broken. And I think it was an adjunct onto a Smiley Face, a 9 Inch Nails project by Trent Reznor.
Okay, but yes.
It was, if you watch that, it kind of goes through the notion of like a Smiley Face killing. They're driving around. They're looking for a young man. A young man comes to the car. He ends up chained down in a basement. And then there's depiction of drowning. Like, it's incredible. It's like the same MO. So it's it could be father-son teams. I don't know. But it's there's something very dark happening that most people couldn't comprehend.
Jesus, man. It's just when you think about it, it's just so wild. It's just so wild. Like, let's get into the Smiley Faces. Like, are these... This is obviously one of the other connections. It's one of the threads that makes the sweater that make them look so similar. So there's like at least one or multiple Smiley Faces found in the vicinity of the finding of the dead body. Is that correct? Is that how it?
That's how it got its name, and so it kind of, the tradition kind of continues to this day. There's other ones that are kind of fairly recent that people have found Smiley Faces, but it's I don't know if it's as prevalent as what Gannon and Gilbertson found at the beginning. But
and what's your thought on that? Do you think it's just a
calling card? It's a tag. Okay. It's just like anybody else makes
at this point, right?
I don't, because there is the use of a smiley face in kind of an occult context in culture, and I have a whole chapter in my book about that, just like going through Alan Moore, and it's in Fight Club and all these other contexts where it's used as kind of like a symbol of something. Like, I'm not initiated, but it seems like I've heard other people use this symbol as like a sign of kind of like tragedy and laughter at the same time. So I've heard that like that kind of depicts what these are, is laughing at somebody else's tragedy. But there's a really interesting video by Ed Sheeran, if you can watch. It's called Bad
Well, every time I'm at the gym, William, and they have it on the screen when I'm at the gym, sometimes every time I see it, I think of you, because I see that freaking smiley face every time. Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's worse than that. It's a depiction of Order of Nine Angles ideology from beginning to end, because the sun goes down, he transforms into kind of a vampire. There's the mundanes are everywhere, and then the sun comes back up and he transforms back into himself. This is like standard 09A ideology to a T. He's a vampire bat. He's upside down on the ceiling. It's really incredible. So it is an expression of like the darkest magic. And he has very strange friends. He has a smiley face on his body. And so like these guys, some of them operate in a different way that you would never know, you know? So you could walk by somebody, like, I mean, imagine what it was like knowing Jeffrey Dahmer and you didn't know the extent of his crimes. Like he was murdering people for years, right? Like, you didn't know the extent of it until he got arrested and then like told everybody. So something like that could be happening with other people in other parts of the country, whether it's Austin or Chicago, New York, or Boston. So they could just like Ed Sheeran in that video, he kind of just blends into the normal crowd. There was a case in Boston, I forgot the kid's name, but he was there's something happens, like these guys come out of the TD garden, so people have to be afraid of, like, watch out when you leave the TD garden. But he literally like walked out, somebody hit him in the head with something, like he had visible injuries. He was face down in water, and somebody went over to help him. Like he was down for like 5 minutes, is my understanding. But when they got there, they took a picture. There was somebody else there who was there before the guy went to save him. And they have a picture of him, but nobody looked into it. Nobody found that guy ever. So it's like there are literally moments there where they could literally have found somebody doing these crimes where they just let them slip through their hands.
Wow. And when was this, William?
This was 2022.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's chapter 26 in the book. Injured man rescued from water near TD Garden, downtown Boston. Okay. He actually is on a podcast. You can see it. It's on episode 13. You can look it up. Episode 13, Smiley Face Survivor Speaks Out.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. I mean, do you think that because like to kind of start cracking this open is to essentially start taking these deaths more seriously and start doing autopsies and investigations, right?
Treat them like they're crimes. Absolutely.
Right, because all these clues and whatnot are just slipping right through their fingers because they're just checking the wrong box on the form, right? They're checking suicide or accident or whatever.
So.
Yeah.
I don't think they're incentivized to really go that deep and actually feel like this is a trick crime. The interesting thing is that in other circumstances, you hear of fake suicides. You hear of fake people falling downstairs. You hear about faked other stuff. So, like, why wouldn't they think other people would fake a death in another circumstance? It's just a lot easier. The other thing is, like, some of these are so suspicious. The fact that places have already been searched, like there's been reservoirs, like this is a limited body of water. They've been searched, and then somebody shows up and they're just like, oh, accidental drowning. Like it's almost like negligence on the part of law enforcement.
That's my thought on it, really, because there's just so many head scratching details and connections of details in these cases that absolutely it just seems like pure negligence and incompetence. Have you ever spoken to anyone in law enforcement about these cases?
Not in great detail, No.
Okay.
I mean, I've tried to get information from the cops, and it's just like it's talking to a brick wall. They literally don't know.
Yeah.
I think that I actually have come to the conclusion that some of the medical examiners in some of these big cities are super corrupt, and they're part of the political machine. So a lot of these jobs are handed out as part of a political machinery.
Okay.
And so the medical examiners might not be on the up and up.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's just amazing I mean, yeah, I mean, anyone can get corrupted, right? So it's just you got to get the focal points, the focal points in the operations, so that you can get away with what you want or get done what you want without people asking too many
I don't think
questions.
it's outside the realm of possibility in these days. And so, there may be payoffs. I'm not saying even in this, but in other situations, it's like people may get threatened or they may be in there for a reason. I don't know. But um some of these are just like they strain credulity that somebody would do that. Like I think even in the case of Dakota James, the medical examiner didn't write in there that he had like ligature marks on his neck, but it went over to Dr. Cyril Wecht, who's like an independent examiner. And he said, "Well, what's this? Because I can see it with I can see the pictures too. I've seen him. I've seen him with my own eyes. He clearly has some kind of injury that is consistent with the ligature around your neck, not some kind of, scraping on the bottom of the river type thing."
Right.
Also, I could tell his body was in good shape. His body was in great shape. He was in like he had just been put in the day before. Literally. That's so where was he for 40 days? He was
Exactly.
alive for a long period of time. Yeah.
It's just it's just horrible to think of what they might be doing with them before they finally kill
It
them
sure
off.
is. It sure is.
Oh,
There
that's
was a
just
guy who was arrested. He was gay. His name was Latunsky. He was in Michigan. He actually worked near at one point near where the body of Dakota James was found, but he was a very aggressive guy. He didn't have a good he was mentally compromised. He took pills for schizophrenia or something like that. And he would date on these apps. And it's easy to remember this case because his victim was Kevin Bacon. His name was Kevin Bacon. It wasn't
okay.
the actor Kevin Bacon,
Right.
but he was on a dating app and he went to his house. And this guy Latunsky had a dungeon downstairs and he killed the guy in his dungeon for whatever reason. And he ate his testicles. And
Wow.
then the police came and he's just out of his mind. And you just wonder, okay, you got busted, you got put in jail for this. What other dark stuff have you done?
What else have you been up to?
He's
Right.
very kind of occulted. He was in the leather world. He hated Christians. He was there. Like a social media showed that he like didn't like, everybody was evangelical and they're all bad. So like you can kind of see this kind of personality similarities between some of these killers. There are a lot of them are in the same stuff, leather, on gay apps, and just like very, very different than like a kind of standard cultural interpersonal relationships.
Right. Wonder. Yeah. Wonder what that. I mean, that's obviously some deeper
Yeah, no, it's pretty
psychological stuff. But I mean, yeah. I wonder what's going on there.
what's making them tick. It was
Yeah.
interesting. I did a show of, I talked about that broken thing, and then I heard on Rogan was talking to Tim Dillon, and they're like, "Yeah, I do think there's a serial killer in Austin because Rogan lives there now." And
Yeah.
they were using the word broken. Somebody's very broken to do this, and it's interesting because it just the concept kind of overlaps with the documentary that I did in 2017 based on Broken with that picture. So
Okay.
I think that there's people out there who are very broken for whatever reason. I don't know. Latunsky's a strange character. There's been a couple documentaries about him, but like formerly married, then got into like the gay lifestyle, like has 4 kids, got into the gay lifestyle, and just decided to kill some kid named Kevin Bacon, and I think he was into the occult too, if I remember correctly. I'd have to go back there and look at that.
Which is, yeah, something that comes up Right.
It's a common denominator.
Yeah.
No question.
Before we wrap up, are there any? I mean, what's some of the most what's the most amazing thing or wild thing that you've learned during your research into this? I mean, it's just a crazy topic to begin with, right? Like,
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, at first glance, you could not believe, why would somebody go and fake these drownings? Like, what's the motive? Why would you do this? Would you kill somebody randomly
that's
for
what we should
whatever reason? And the answer is complex. It's that you're broken, you're strange, you're not within the parameters of conventional society. One of the strangest things I have is researching this case could have broken the entire Smiley Face Killers case. Is the case of Scarlett Blake, in which I write about in my book, in Oxford, where this person literally went out with a mask and stalked somebody to kill them and drown them in a smiley face killing kind of thing. Like, he literally did that. He didn't get caught, so he committed the perfect crime. This person, his victim was Jorge Serrano. He had a Spanish last name. I can't remember offhand, but Jorge Carreño. And he literally was found in a very small pond, face down, drowning. And the police were mystified. His family was mystified. There was a memorial. This guy, Scarlett Blake, went to the memorial. His killer was seen there taking pictures or being pictured. And nobody knew why until this guy, Scarlett Blake, 2 years later confessed to his trans boyfriend. And the trans boyfriend taught police. If he hadn't confessed to his trans boyfriend, and this is an international concept thing of this crime, this guy would travel around, travel to the U.S. His boyfriend was from Austin, Texas, of all places, or something like Colorado. He had been to the United States, but they busted him for this one case, Jorge Carreño, in Oxford in the UK. But he never got caught for anything else. What other wrongdoings has he been up to? It could have been cracked open the case. Are these guys communicating with each other, planning crimes? He was like another killer out of Canada. His name was Luca Magnotta, if you remember him.
Yep.
Scarlett Blake got started by killing a cat and sticking it in a blender.
Oh, God. Yeah, of course.
And then he said, I wonder what it would be like to do this to a human being. And now he's in jail for, I think, the rest of his life. But they covered everything up. The police kept calling him his trans name. Like, they don't even reference him by his birth name. So you could do both. So Scarlett Blake is like Marilyn Monroe or something. It's fake. So they should have found he's of Asian descent. Another kind of non-threatening guy. Like, not a big, burly. A lot of these serial killers are not threatening. That's the whole thing about them. Like, they don't give off that vibe, and then next thing you know, you're dead.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, Scarlett Blake was really a revelatory case. And to me, it was a big break in the Smiley Face killings because he fit all the profile, and then he got busted and got sentenced and went through the criminal process. But in my own opinion, he's probably committed that crime in the past too.
Yeah.
That he was a serial killer. For what reason? He had gone through Tavistock. He had gone through all of the drugs, the trans drugs, and he was strange. Like, he's had female breasts and a man's penis. So it's like a lot of gender dysphoria there.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah, I recently, I can't remember. It might even be, I think it's in Canada, but it might even be someone in Ontario near me. This gentleman, gentleman identifies as gentleman. So he was able to get the government to pay for surgery to construct a vagina on him, and so he can still keep his penis too. So, he's like a Boy Scout. He's always prepared for everything, right? Yeah. So,
Wow.
Yeah, with all this trans stuff and stuff going on with these drugs and surgeries and whatnot that are involved in this lifestyle. I mean, yeah, I wonder what.
What does it do to your brain? What do these drugs do to your brain?
Yeah,
What do they
yeah,
make you feel like?
exactly.
We know that these people have a higher higher incidence of suicide. A lot of them are violent. So, like, what's happening there? We've seen the Zizian cult that's kind of close to you in Canada. International, multi-jurisdictional violence. One guy killed his parents. You know, like really dark. Yeah, there you go. So even Zoe Trope just mentioned it. Anyway, there's a lot of mystery, but I think that you can kind of put it together that something strange has happened in the culture that involves underground BDSM stuff, international travel, and international communication that facilitates this kind of crime. It's
crazy. Well, William, we'll wrap it up there, my friend. You have the two movies. I've seen both of them; they're great, and of course, you have your most recent book, The Smiley Face Killers. Let everyone know where else you would like them to go check you out.
Yeah, you can just go to my podcast, Spreaker, William Ramsey Investigates, or my Patreon, which I post a lot of this stuff, and you can see all 5 of my documentaries. You just pay $5 a month, and they're all there. You can stream them. Right. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks, William. Thanks for coming back. Thanks to everyone in the audience watching, listening. Please subscribe to Divulgence Podcast on YouTube. Check me out wherever you get your audio podcasts, and you can check me out on X as well. Yeah, so take care of yourself, William, and hope to see you again soon. And yeah,
likewise.